Hey, Kathleen, I think we're presenting at your event.
All right, feel free to go, Allison.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, as both of you know, I am Allison. I'm one of the partners and owners of BlueLion. And today we are super excited to partner with the Manchester Chamber for part 3 of our series. And today we're going to be focusing on building strategic compensation structures. Super fun topic. Just a note, as you already know, if you clicked on it, this presentation is being recorded. Our normal disclaimer, this presentation is meant for informational and general purposes. Unfortunately, because every situation can be unique, sometimes what we're talking about today may not directly translate into your business. So just keep that in mind. Definitely be happy to answer any questions about anything through the process. Who are we? So we are an HR consulting company. We are based in New Hampshire. We also have staff in Massachusetts, Maine, and New Jersey. We primarily cover New England. Our focus is on blue collar companies, but we do have clients across a wide variety of verticals. Really helping them stay in compliance is what we're all about. This is a little bit about me. Again, I am a partner and an owner at BlueLion, also an HR consultant. I have my master's from UNH in business. I'm also SHRM certified. I love the outdoors and hanging out with my pup, Kona. All right, we're going to dive head first. So today we are again going over building a strategic compensation structure. A lot of people are feeling the pressure lately with the talent shortages. There was a lot of factors playing into this. You had increase in inflation. We've had a fantastic economy for several years. We had COVID, which put some pressures. There was a lot of people deciding no longer to have a second job. There was people leaving and exiting the workforce, which is reducing the pool. You had the younger generation not entering the workforce as soon as they may have if it wasn't a COVID world. So there's a lot of different factors playing into play when it's coming to our talent pool currently. We also are going through unknown economic stability with what's going on in Ukraine. We obviously have inflation, the interest rates keep going up. So we're kind of in this period where they think we're coming out of a very heightened period of time into a semi-recession. So a lot of people are being hesitant about what they're doing when it comes to compensation, but also still needing to be marketing. So we're going to really dive into how to build a strategic compensation plan and making sure you're focusing on what's important and aligning with all of these factors. Some key components we're going to go over today is setting goals, making sure you're aligning things like your revenue or your sales with what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to attract or retain your staff. Making sure you're benchmarking against competitors. We're going to talk about allocating your budget, different ways in which you can reward your current staff as part of their compensation package. We'll touch briefly on pay grades, that funny fancy word called compliance that's always super fun, and then really rounding it out at the end with the total compensation package. If you have questions while we're going, don't hesitate to jump in or throw them in the chat and we can answer anything as we go. Right off the bat, we're going to jump into setting goals. This kind of, as I mentioned, breaks it down into, are you trying to attract employees? Are we trying to retain our current employees? Are we really just trying to get them motivated to be more productive so we don't have to hire additional staff? Making sure that you're maximizing what you're getting out of your employees, because obviously investing into them. We're also going to talk about leading, lagging, and meeting the market when it comes to the compensation you're offering in salary. So first, let's look at attracting and retaining employees. So in order to attract and entice top talent, a lot of times you're going to have to overpay. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this compensation strategy helps establish your company's position as an employer of choice. So making sure that you're setting your goals to be, when they're looking at 2 or 3 offers, which is very common these days, that they're looking at your offer and saying, yeah, no, that's the company that I want to work with. your compensation strategy will help differentiate you from your competition. And then retaining, so making sure you're offering generous compensation packages to help retain and keep your employees happy so that they stay with you, so that you aren't then having to attract. Motivating employees to maximize your return on investment. Ways that we can do this is boosting morale. So a sound compensation strategy leaves your employees feeling valued, appreciated, and an important part of the company. So if we're implementing a compensation strategy and illustrating to them, it's going to boost their morale, and they're going to be more excited about working for a company that puts time and effort into their compensation structure. We've also found an increase in productivity. So providing an employee-friendly compensation package can increase the employees' productivity and give them maximize your return on the investment. So kind of what we talked about before, the more time and effort you're putting into giving them a great compensation structure, the more you're hopefully going to get out of them. Now let's talk about the leading, lagging, and meeting the market. So when you're thinking about what level you're going to pay employees, whether they're current employees or hiring, because remember, compensation structure isn't just about putting an ad out on Indeed or out on ZipRecruiter and, you know, what amount are we going to pay someone to get them? It also has to do with all of the staff you currently have. So having a leading compensation strategy means that you're aggressively above the market value. Paying employees more than the market rate, it makes it easier for you to attract qualified talent and retain your best employees. So overpaying for the talent that you have has unfortunately become a common practice in the market that we're currently in because the labor pool is so short. You also set yourself apart from other organizations and could be perceived as the employer of choice because you're willing to pay value for the talent that you're acquiring. Leading compensation does, however, hinder the financial health of some businesses. So if we're having to overpay, the money's going to come somewhere. So it might be decreasing the amount you're spending in marketing, the amount that you're able to spend in other areas of the business. Some employers are actually having to borrow in order to maintain staff because they're having to overpay. So keep that in mind if you are choosing the leading, where are those dollars coming from? And we'll talk about that with the budget in a little bit. Lagging is not a super popular structure currently. This is when you are paying under market value. So you're lagging behind the industry standard. We do see this several times when we're looking in companies that have other purposes. So a lot of times you're going to see this in nonprofits. So one position in a for-profit company compared to a non-for-profit, the non-for-profit may have a lagging strategy. However, they have the other intrinsic value of the mission and the purpose, and you know, people that work for nonprofits have special places in their heart and they're just, you know, behind the passion. So they can oftentimes have the lagging, or that it ends up being theirs. And a lot of that, again, ties back to budget. They don't have the budget of the for-profit companies in order to fill those positions. Studies have also shown that if you're going to choose a lagging strategy, that you want to make sure you're having a buddy system for your new hires, to make sure your new hires have a quick connection to somebody else in the company. They're getting settled in real quickly. They're also being prepared for their job faster, and they're getting more satisfaction out of their position. So when using the lagging strategy, there are different ways that you can enhance the experience. So it's not always all about the compensation. Now, meeting the market used to be the most common market strategy. It, as I mentioned, has moved a little bit towards the leading just because of the labor pool, but this was the normal market strategy. So you're essentially meeting the expectations of the market, you're meeting your competition, you're paying average or about the same as your competition. In strong financial environments, you can also share bonuses or potential short-term incentives. So meeting the market might be where you're at with their salary, but if you have a good year as a business, you can scatter in some other benefits that are non-discretionary or not guaranteed every year to enhance the value you have. So this is also a good strategy if we're going into an unknown. So I may meet the market with your annual salary, but in your offer, we'll also discuss different opportunities available. Should the business do better than expected, we'll, share that back with our staff. So some companies take that strategy as well. In order to establish whether you're leading, lagging, or meeting the market, you obviously need to be making some benchmarking against your competitors. As your company grows or undergoes any changes, it's going to be challenging. You have to continuously do this. We're actually finding for a lot of our clients, we're doing benchmarking their competitors on an annual or biannual basis. Anytime you're posting a new position, you want to make sure you're doing a compensation analysis. But even if you're not, let's say we're not hiring anybody, we are fully staffed, God willing, and everything's looking great, you still want to be doing market analysis and benchmarking towards your competitors, or you might get caught with your tail between your legs and start losing staff because we weren't paying attention to what's happening in the market. So even if you're not hiring, you want to be thinking about your compensation strategies and specifically benchmarking to your competitors. So looking at, other companies in the same industry, make sure you're looking at location. So it's not just a lawyer at a law firm, it's the size of the law firm, it's the location of the law firm. Also looking at different things of, in office versus remote work. There's many factors. So don't just look at the title of the position. You also want to look at the job description when you're doing benchmarking against competitors. Office manager has one title, but it could mean so many different things. Executive assistant, one title could mean so many different things. So make sure when you are using benchmarking tools that you're getting the right function and the right job. Also, a lot of times we have clients that will change the title of a position they're looking to hire for because the title in which they gave it outmarkets them. So you may advertise it as an executive assistant, but when you do the research and find out when an executive assistant is making X dollars, but you're only willing to pay Y, you might need to modify their title to an admin assistant or just assistant, and losing the word executive because the compensation that goes along with that tends to be higher. When we're looking at benchmarking against competitors, it's not just the salary we want to be looking at. We also need to make sure we're looking at other things that those competitors are offering. Benefits. Benefits are huge. It is pretty standard in today's society that you're offering health, vision, dental. A lot of times, even a 401k or a simple IRA becomes pretty much standard. So when individuals are looking at multiple job offers, they're not just looking at the base salary, they're looking at the whole compensation package and all the other benefits that go with it. We have clients adding in a lot of unique benefits like paid childcare. They have things like flexible spending accounts. You could have even reimbursement for gym memberships or yoga classes. Some clients are even bringing some stuff on site. So maybe it's a massage, you do a massage chair once a month or something like that. They're getting a lot more creative, but this all needs to be part of what you're comparing. It's not just the salary, it's all the other benefits. Huge thing that is being compared by a lot of people that are job seeking right now is the ability to work remotely. So the requirement for humans to be in an office setting or in a location post-COVID, there's a huge drive for people to be able to work remotely and not have to come into an office every day. And they're using that when comparing job offers. Before you go into making offers or posting ads, after we've looked at where the market is, we've looked at where our competition is, we've decided as an organization how we're wanting to approach it, you really got to look at the budget. So sometimes before you can make the decision if we're going to be leading, lagging, or at the market, we've got to look at what the money is that we're working with. There are a lot of positions that when you go to post it, you end up getting a great candidate, but then they negotiate for a higher salary or more benefits, more time off. You need to make sure that you're taking that into consideration when going in. So figuring out where your mark is, where are we able to go? How far are we able to go on this position and have it still make sense for our overall budget? Again, compensation structure, we're not just looking at hiring, we're also looking at retaining. So every year, your company should be looking at, what do we have in the budget for increases? What do we have in the budget for bonuses? What are we doing with the money in our budget to allocate it to retaining the staff that we have? Because most businesses, your number one asset is your employees. So it definitely should be part of your budget, your annual conversation. Keep in mind, when you are talking about budget, you are including the taxes, the benefits, the bonuses. So it's not just a $50,000 a year salary. You're going to have taxes on top of that. You have benefits, making sure you're using real numbers. So when you come in at the end, you're coming in to meet your budget and you're not already blowing it out of the water. If you only put in a $55,000 or a $50,000 position at $50,000, it's going to be well beyond that when you add in all the other benefits that you're most likely offering. So make sure you're allocating for all of those different things. And obviously, there is an expectation in society for merit increases, cost of living increases. We have a lot of clients that have just given inflation increases. Across the board, everyone got a $1 raise because it was, inflation has just hiked up. Those do have a lot of impact on a business. So not every business is able to do across the board increases for inflation, but keep that in mind as you are going through your annual reviews with your staff, or if it's time for everyone to get their merit increases, and making sure you're budgeting for those properly. When you are looking at your budget, you really should be looking 2 and 3 years out, and possibly even 5, to make sure that you have room for growth for those individual positions. There's several ways to build out rewards into your compensation structure. It's important that we are building it into the budget again. So remember, considering how we're leveraging our total compensation, rewards are another thing that need to be included. They're typically received in 2 ways, either intrinsic or extrinsic. Much like being an introvert or an extrovert determines on where you get your energy. So some people need to have affirmation in dollars, and other people just need an attaboy. So really looking at your staff, we recommend making sure that you're taking surveys, that you're being engaged with your staff. Not everyone is motivated by money. There are oftentimes other things that your staff is looking to get out of their relationship, and that might actually even be more value to them. There's people that would prefer an annual bonus of $5,000 at the end of the year, right before Christmas, versus having it in their salary throughout the year. There's people that would prefer to have their gym membership paid for than an extra $20 in their paycheck every week. So really talking to your staff and taking those surveys and getting a pulse on what they're looking for will help you make better decisions, so you're getting the results you're looking for when you do put in these type of rewards. Some examples of intrinsic motivation: participating in something because you find the activity rewarding. Companies are starting to do a lot more of giving back and a lot more of participating with local nonprofits. So something that could be here would be a day that your entire company shuts down and goes and volunteers for a local nonprofit. We also have clients offering volunteer time off. So giving them a half a day to go, volunteer at an organization that means something to them. Joining a committee at work because you enjoy the topic. So having the ability for people to volunteer on different topics or different committees. So let's say we have a new product launching and we'd love to get some people together to talk about how we're going to bring it to market. What are some obstacles or roadblocks we need to think about? Putting that out to your population and asking for people to join that are interested. The people at the table are also going to be more involved because they signed up to be there. But you'd also be amazed at the things you get out of people that volunteer, and they also feel rewarded and valued because they were brought into the fold on some bigger problems and bigger obstacles the company's dealing with. And again, that goes to assisting, solving problems at work, and then studying a project, studying a subject you find fascinating. We have clients that are also starting to give back through tuition reimbursement. So offering for enhanced courses, maybe you offer, they're able to take one course through a local community college each semester, and it's meant to, enhance their communication skills or enhance their manager skills and things like that. Extrinsic motivation, participating in something that wins awards. So if you have a staff that is more of this type of motivation, things like internal games or internal competitions, maybe who could get the most reviews on Google, or, they're the ones that are going to be joining the committee because they want to impress their boss. They are willing to assist in solving problems, but it's because they think that they're going to be in line for a promotion. So really looking at your staff and what motivates them is going to be super important when you're trying to focus on how to reward them and how to adjust your compensation accordingly. Now we're going to talk about pay grades. We absolutely recommend this when your company is of the right size and has the right capacity. Pay grades are more and more popular as the millennials move through the workforce. They want to know where they're going. They want to know where they are, where they're going. They need to see the ladder. My parents climbed a ladder that didn't exist. They just kept on reaching and hoping the next ring was going to be there, and they were just going to keep on climbing, and they didn't even know where the platform ended. Millennials need to know what the ladder looks like. They need to know the space between the rungs. They need to know the time frame it's going to take to get to the top. They want to know what each platform is along the way. They want to know the compensation that goes along with it. If you're not clearly defining a road forward or a path forward or what it looks like, you're going to lose staff. Staff is going to go somewhere that they can see the horizon. They want to see what's coming. They need to know what's heading down to them. So make sure you're taking the time to say what level they come in at, what it takes to get to the next level. A lot of this is done through job descriptions, but then also putting a pay grade next to it. So, okay, this type of position, you're going to be here to here. This also assists when you're doing their performance appraisals or when it comes time for their merit increases. If they haven't made it to the next level, they should not have an expectation of a salary that's outside the range for the position to which they're being held. You'll also find by doing this, you get more out of your staff. So those staff that are hungry to get to that next level, they're going to put in the effort, and they know what you're looking for on that next level. So they're going to try and obtain that next experience or expertise in order to move up those rungs. So that can definitely be beneficial and have a good ROI by taking the time to put together those pay grades. Next part's not so fun. The compliance. How do I stay legal? There are several seats at the table when it comes to ensuring your compensation plan is compliant. You have the federal, you have state, you have local laws and regulations. How you're compensating your employees, there is a lot to weed through. If you have any questions or you think there might be a gray area, I can assure you it's not gray, it's clearly black and white. We just need to get the right information to you. BlueLion can definitely help with that. Employment lawyers are also great for this. Unfortunately, we have had in the past couple of weeks some local businesses that have not fared well. So these are not areas in which you want to take a chance. You want to make sure you're paying them correctly. You want to make sure if they're a subcontractor or 1099, they should be. If they're supposed to be a W-2, they are a W-2. You need to make sure you're calculating overtime correctly. If you're choosing to pay per performance, so it's on more of a piecework, totally fine. There's just a lot of variables you got to think about. You want to make sure you're definitely crossing your T's and dotting your I's. It gets extremely expensive if you are found to not be compensating your employees within the regulations and laws. And just to round it out, really total compensation, as we mentioned, includes a whole bunch of things. So it has to do with the actual wages. So the salary and dollar amount I'm getting paid. It has to do with the vacation that I'm allotted, the holidays, what you're putting into my retirement, my healthcare, my vision, my dental, my volunteer time off. Even compensation can be things like a day that we all shut down and go do fun things. It could be, a company outing that's fully paid for. Maybe the company shuts down and everyone brings their entire family to Canopy Lake Park for a half a day for a barbecue. Those are all part of someone's compensation package. You want to make sure that you're expressing it, talking about it. We oftentimes will talk about it when we're doing annual reviews, reviewing what their total compensation is, outlining if they had a bonus last year, discretionary bonuses, maybe their paid commission. You want to make sure you're kind of bringing them back in to look at the entire package, so that if there is a chance that they were being entertained by another competitor, that they have a full vision of everything you're offering to them. That kind of wraps it up for us today and what I wanted to cover on the compensation. I'll open it up quickly for any questions. And then, as always, here is all of our contact information. If you have any questions on today's information, or if you have other things that you want to talk about, we are always here to connect.
I'll ask a question.
Yes.
So this is Kathleen. I wanted to ask a little bit about, you talked about pay grades and millennials, and I think that many of us are, in intergenerational workforces. We are seeing, there is a change in how people are approaching things. Do you have suggestions for smaller organizations? I think that, as you had mentioned, pay grades are appropriate if you're at a certain size, but even smaller organizations want to be able to show that kind of career ladder and potential progression.
Yeah.
You have any other suggestions for how smaller organizations have done that, or businesses?
So a lot of that through a small organization is, number one, by their accountability or org chart. So having an organizational chart that shows kind of representation of who goes where. It's usually assumed that if I'm here and there's 2 people above me, those are 2 roles I could go into. I would also recommend possibly still outlining a rough pay grade, or a rough, not even compensation wise, but at least the different opportunities available. Because I may come in at, let's say, a entry level position, I'm a specialist, but then I have the opportunity to become a senior, whatever I am, or maybe a executive, whatever I am, before I become a manager. So even outlining the different available positions, so they also know that just because you don't take the role of the person in front of you doesn't mean that there aren't additional steps that you could take. And maybe not outlining in a smaller organization the actual compensation for each of those, but just illustrating as an organization. I've seen a lot of times that they come up with the 3 or 4 words of people that can scale up. So whether it's specialist, executive, senior, supervisor. So if you have a language, determine as an organization the common language everyone's going to use, but then make sure you're being consistent with it. The more consistent you can be across your org chart, the more consistent minded your staff is going to be to understand there is progression. So if in this department you use the verbiage specialist, it goes specialist, senior, manager, and over here it's specialist, something else, they're not going to directly relate. So having those clearly defined ability to excel with the title. A lot of times it goes back to title, but I would say definitely utilizing your org chart. And really it's about having conversations. So when you're doing your annual reviews or when you're meeting with your staff, having conversations about what they're looking for. So are you looking for advancement? Where are you interested in? In a small organization, a lot of people wear a lot of hats. So it may even be something where, okay, I was hired as events, but I also love, doing some marketing or other things. So, oh, great. That's great. Sally would love help with some of the marketing stuff. Maybe you could take the newsletter off her plate. So it's even having those conversations so they're engaged in what they're wanting to do, because it may not always be a ladder. Sometimes it's a zigzag back and forth to keep them engaged and keep them, realizing that you care as an employer on what drives them. Great question. All right, Cole, I think that's all we've got for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison. I think it was great tips for organizations of all sizes. And make sure to tune into the Chamber's YouTube page to catch all recordings and share those around. And make sure to get in touch with Allison for great tips in the future and helping you out with all your HR and fun stuff.
Awesome. Thanks,
Terrific.
Cole.
So with all that, see you soon. Bye.